Minister, last week I addressed this House in your presence and accused you of a certain Dublin bias, or at least having had a concentration on Dublin during your tenure as Minister. We've talked a lot about contagion in this House over the past couple of weeks, and the dangers of contagion. And I just wonder whether that bias is particularly contagious, given your very fleeting visit to Bunratty and the fact that we now have Shannon Heritage Group, which, while it's decided that it's going to close all of its heritage sites in the Midwest, which it's supposed to primarily serve from the end of August onwards, and it's opening them up at the end of this month, but it's going to leave open and remain to service the sites that it runs in Dublin, the GPO, Malahide Castle and Gardens, and Newbridge House and Farm. Now, that is something that's of concern to me. I mean, really, if these sites, which are essential tourist sites in Dublin, are important enough to be kept open, well, why aren't they important enough to be kept open in the Midwest? And I don't mean to be facetious, but obviously there is a difference in ownership structures. And if the Shannon Airport Group, and I've raised this issue with the Shannon Group, and they have questioned, their management has questioned whether it's appropriate for what is a commercial semi-state body to be pumping money into something that they know will lose money in, which is the Shannon Heritage sites. Now, maybe, Minister, I'm not expecting that you'd make a decision in the time left to you as Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, but maybe it's something that you could at least initiate looking into, because if it's not appropriate for Shannon Group to maintain these sites, and I mean, inevitably, Cathal Crowe had a plastic model of Bunratty Castle. Now, unfortunately, the real castle is, made of bricks and stone, and it's a very ancient building and is very expensive to maintain. Obviously, it's a protected structure, as it should be, and any works that have to be carried out to it have to be carried out to a very high standard and are very expensive works because of the nature of the building and the degree of specialisation required to work on it. And because it's a building that receives a lot of tourists, it inevitably requires a lot of upkeep every year. The same is true of Knappogue Castle, the same is true of Dunguaire Castle near Kinvara, King John's in Limerick, and of course Craggaunowen. I mean, all of these are very expensive sites to maintain, but they are important tourist sites, but they're also a very important part of our heritage. And it's sort of how do we value our heritage? I mean, clearly the structure that's been put in place for the museum or the visitor centre in the GPO, Malahide Castle and Newbridge House means that the heritage of those sites is valued very highly, because Shannon Heritage will continue to keep them open, whereas the heritage of the sites in the Midwest seems to be of a lesser value. And I find it very difficult to reconcile that. And if that is the case, that somehow one is more important than another because of an ownership structure. I mean, they're all essentially state-owned, or none of them are in private ownership. So, I mean, if the structure needs to be maintained to ensure that there's investment in them, and that brings me on to the point of investment. I mean, state aid rules have been relaxed for the moment, and Fáilte Ireland and the airport group were to invest a sizable sum of money in Bunratty Castle. Maybe, Minister, the state should look at, because this is an essential heritage item, the state should look at investing that money instead, because we know the Shannon Group is not in a good place. And the last thing I want to mention, and by no means least, is the Aer Lingus workers. Minister, there are workers there who've given a lifetime in Shannon Airport, and they're being told that from Sunday week that they're not even on standby, that in the event that Aer Lingus divert a plane there or start opening up, that other companies will be called upon to do the groundworks, to carry out any essential works that are required. Essentially, the staff in Shannon Airport, I mean, I've long held suspicions about Aer Lingus's attitude to Shannon Airport. It informed my attitude to the sale of the 25% shareholding. But I mean, that's now been confirmed by Aer Lingus management, that very much the staff who've given a lifetime of work in Shannon Airport are being relegated to a much lesser position than the staff in Cork and Dublin Airport. It's not fair, it's not right. I appreciate, Minister, that Aer Lingus is a private company, and I expect that's what you're going to say to me, but it is somehow the flag carrier for Ireland. And if the government could signal its opposition to that, it might carry some weight, and I would urge you to do so.